The rain pounded against the windows of the old, sprawling estate as Claire adjusted the flashlight in her hand. The beam flickered intermittently, casting fleeting shadows across peeling wallpaper and dust-choked corners. She hadn't wanted this house. A crumbling Victorian monstrosity inherited from her uncle, the kind of place where ghost stories practically whispered through the air. But she couldn't afford to let it sit idle, not when she was barely scraping by. Fix it up, sell it at a profit, move on. That had been the plan. "I guess we're doing this," Claire muttered, tugging her jacket tighter against the chill that seemed to seep straight through her skin. The electrician hadn't been able to fix the house's wiring. He'd left in a hurry after claiming the fuse box was wrong and muttering something about bad vibes. Just thinking about it made her sigh. But the bigger problem came last night, when something shattered glass in the kitchen at exactly 2:15 a.m. No one was there. Tonight, Claire was armed. A flashlight, an old baseball bat, and a dog-eared book on paranormal activity borrowed from a friend. The first room she entered was the study, an uncanny quiet wrapping around her like a shroud. Floorboards creaked underfoot, the sound piercing in the stillness. Her flashlight swept across shelves crammed with dusty titles. She thought she'd checked this room already, but tonight it was different. A single book lay on the desk, its spine cracked open as though someone had been reading it. It hadn't been there yesterday. The title caught her eye, Death's Puzzle, A Journey Between Worlds. Claire stepped closer, the faint smell of damp and neglect seemingly tinged with something metallic. The instant her fingers brushed the cover, the bulbs in the chandelier above her flickered alive. Blinding white light filled the room, forcing her to shield her eyes. And then the ghost appeared. It wasn't what she'd expected, not a spectral figure or transparent apparition. The air rippled like heat haze, and suddenly there was a young man standing before her. His face was pale enough to blend with the shadows, but his form was solid. Too solid. His clothes were old-fashioned, frayed brown slacks and a white button-down shirt, edges rimmed in streaks of soot. "Finally," he said, his voice crisp but laced with exhaustion. His dark eyes pinned her in place. The walls around them seemed to groan, as though the house exhaled relief. Claire's instinct was to scream, but the sheer impossible reality of him robbed her breath. Instead, she gripped the bat, trembling. What are you?" "Thomas," he said simply, as though it were a sufficient explanation. She swallowed hard. The reality of his presence and the weight of his words hit her like a physical blow. His gaze turned sharp, but not unkind. "Because you're standing where I died," he stated, as though it was a simple truth. The words seemed to rob her breath. She stepped back involuntarily, muttering, "This can't be real." Thomas's voice gained force. "Whether you believe or not is irrelevant right now," he declared. "The house has rules. Dead or alive, you're part of them now." He gestured to the book she'd touched, its battered cover seeming to gleam faintly. "That," he pointed, "is the puzzle." Claire shook her head, gripping the floor beneath her with her gaze to stop it from spinning. Rules? Puzzles? Ghosts? The entire situation felt like a fever dream. "This house is a lock," Thomas said, "and that book is the key. Solve it, and you'll release me, and by extension, yourself. Fail, and the house won't let you leave." Her lips parted, protest brewing, but the room trembled again, this time sharper. The air grew thick, like staring into a summer mirage. "What do you mean I won't be able to leave?" she demanded. The ghost frowned, tilting his head. Then, with a forceful swipe, he flipped the book open to its first page. The words, at least for a moment, looked disjointed, like scrabbled letters through a cryptic cipher. Then clarity shone through. Stage 1, find the hidden key. Before Claire could process it, Thomas vanished, the light sputtering out in a violent burst. The room plunged back into darkness, her flashlight barely illuminating the eerie quiet that returned. But the book, that remained unmovable, luminous even in the dimness. She heard the faint echo of footsteps, not her own, coming from somewhere deeper within the house. Claire's heart was a drumbeat too loud for comfort as she crept to the door and peered into the hall beyond. "Find the hidden key," she whispered, swallowing hard. "What kind of adventure are you dragging me into?" Rooms she thought she'd explored before became inexplicably unfamiliar. A bolted attic door she swore hadn't existed yesterday. the kitchen's towering pantry containing shelves that didn't belong to her inventory list. At midnight, Claire found the first puzzle. A wooden side table in the dining room rattled when she approached, its drawer slightly ajar. Inside was an ornate silver key hung on a delicate chain, but beside it was a note inked in spidery handwriting: solve or fight. The second the key left its resting place, Claire heard it, a low growl that wasn't quite human. Her pulse skyrocketed as a breeze roared through the room, extinguishing candles she hadn't lit. The sharp bite of footsteps reminded her she wasn't alone. Something was coming. Claire turned frantically, whispering, "Thomas?" as she sought a response from the only being she could hope to hear. Yet her flashlight caught movement beyond the dining table, a shape, hulking and humanoid, but distorted, as though its form wasn't merely flesh, but smoke and horror. The note had said, "Fight," and without thinking, Claire swung the bat, the closest thing resembling bravery or defense. It connected hard with the monstrous figure, which shrieked but didn't vanish. But as the ghost had warned, there were rules built into the house. The moment Claire whispered aloud the phrase, "solve or fight," the shadow recoiled violently. Her trembling form collapsed against the paneled walls as quiet returned. The bathroom mirror held a riddle etched in fog. What stays quiet yet tells no lies? She answered, "A reflection," and the mirror fractured, revealing an old box behind its frame. The box contained another note, not written in words, but symbols deciphered by matching patterns from paintings elsewhere in the house. Every progression peeled back layers of Thomas's story. He wasn't merely cursed. He was trapped after making a choice, misguided but intentional, that had entangled him with the house's darkness. This wasn't his home, but his tomb. Claire found moments of respite, but also flashes of terror. The more keys she uncovered, the more frequently the creatures, shadows, and twisting apparitions tried to stop her. Solve or fight, it seemed, wasn't just advice, but survival doctrine. Thomas, when he reappeared sporadically, offered only cryptic hints. His expression darkened with hesitation each time she tried asking why her uncle hadn't warned her. Instead, the ghost's sole focus remained the final stage, the house's heart, hidden in the depths beneath the floorboards. It wasn't until Claire ventured to the cellars, the last stretch of her search, that the house's true intent unveiled itself. The underground was labyrinthine, the air thick with damp stone and decades-old sorrow. She found herself staring at a final door, a jagged, iron-framed thing covered in runes. Beyond it, all her progress hinged. The puzzle was deceptively simple. Arrange 3 stones into a pattern based solely on faint echoes she'd heard throughout the night. The order rang true as distant whispers filled her ears. But the stakes were grim. Failing meant locking herself in with the house forever. With trembling hands, Claire placed the final piece. The iron door swept open, revealing Thomas, not as a shimmering man, but translucent now, hovering like mist. "You solved it," he murmured, relief coursing through his voice. "You win." "But do I?" Claire murmured weakly. Thomas nodded solemnly. Behind him, the house shifted again, but this time upward. Its floors trembled as if shedding layers woven of its cursed past. Thomas blinked once more, this time free, and as sunlight finally pierced forgotten curtains, the ghost faded into returning warmth.